The music faltered before anyone realized why. The sharp crack of glass slicing the silence was enough. Red wine spilled down his chest like a wound. Not of pain, but of insult. Around him diamonds gleamed, laughter froze, and the hum of privilege came to a sudden halt. The woman who had poured the wine smiled, the kind of smile that fed on humiliation. She thought she had won, but that was before the world saw what real power looks like when it refuses to shout. That night, beneath the golden shimmer of chandeliers, the city's elite gathered for their annual celebration of wealth. Every corner of the ballroom dripped with opulence. Crystal glasses, velvet gowns, and laughter rehearsed to sound expensive. Cameras hovered like vultures over glittering prey. Among the guests stood a man, quiet, poised, not dressed to impress, but to belong. He wasn't there for fame or vanity. His name was Marcus Reed, a visionary mind who built empires not on glamour, but on grit. Few there knew the weight of his influence, fewer cared, and in that ignorance, arrogance found its stage. She approached him, the host's wife, radiant in appearance, hollow in grace. Her eyes sized him up with the practiced cruelty of someone too used to power and too blind to decency. With a smirk that could slice steel, she asked if he worked for the catering staff. The laughter that followed wasn't just from her lips, it was from the crowd's cowardice, the kind of laughter that hides fear behind privilege. But Marcus didn't flinch. His silence carried more dignity than her words ever could. And that silence, that calm refusal to descend, would soon become the echo that buried her world. When the glass tipped, it wasn't just wine that spilled. It was the last drop of her unchallenged arrogance. The red streaked his shirt like defiance written in crimson ink. Gasps filled the air. Phones rose discreetly. In that instant, luxury became a crime scene of pride. Marcus simply took a napkin, dabbed the edge of his sleeve, and said words that felt like prophecy. "You just made the most expensive mistake of your life." Then he walked away, calm, measured, unshaken. And as he left, the eyes that had laughed began to shift, first with discomfort, then with fear. The kind of fear that only comes when the mighty realize they've mocked the wrong man. By dawn, the story had consumed the world. Millions watched as the footage spread like wildfire. A billionaire's wife drenching a man she believed beneath her. Headlines called it the Gala of Shame. Hashtags screamed. Sponsors fled. But the true storm was yet to come. At sunrise, Evelyn Hale awoke to chaos. Her phone buzzed with outrage. Her husband Charles stormed into the room, face pale as marble. He didn't see a scandal. He saw destruction. Because the man his wife had humiliated wasn't just a guest. He was Marcus Reed, CEO of Reed Global Industries, the same company holding the key to their billion-dollar defense contract. And with one act of arrogance, their empire had signed its own death warrant. Meetings were canceled. Partnerships dissolved overnight. The Pentagon quietly blacklisted Hale Aerospace, citing ethical concerns. Stocks plummeted in freefall. And while the world devoured the scandal, Marcus said nothing. No interviews, no statements, just silence. The kind that forces reflection, the kind that humbles nations. For Evelyn and Charles Hale, the silence became unbearable. Reporters swarmed. Friends vanished. The mansion that once held their laughter became a monument to their fall. The same woman who had mocked another's worth now found herself drowning in public disgrace. When Marcus finally spoke, it wasn't in anger. It was in truth. During a televised interview, a journalist asked him, "Why didn't you defend yourself that night?" Marcus smiled, faint but firm. "Because noise doesn't create change. Dignity does." Those words became more powerful than any revenge. They became a movement, replayed, quoted, etched across social media and boardrooms alike. The world wasn't cheering for vengeance anymore. It was awakening to justice that spoke without shouting. Weeks passed. The Hales sold their estate to pay mounting lawsuits. Evelyn vanished from high society circles, only to resurface where cameras least expected, in a community shelter, serving meals to those she once ignored. But one evening, as she ladled soup for strangers, a quiet figure appeared at the door. Marcus Reed. He didn't come with anger or triumph. He came with purpose. His company had donated technology to improve the shelter's reach. Their eyes met. The same silence returned, but this time it carried understanding. She whispered the only words left to say, not for forgiveness, but for recognition. I'm learning what service really means. Marcus nodded. Good. Don't waste the lesson. And as he turned to leave, he paused, his voice steady, reflective. You were right that night, he said softly. I didn't belong there. A beat of silence. I belong above it. Then he walked away, not as a man seeking retribution, but as one who had transcended it. Months later, a new headline swept across the world. The Hale Foundation for Human Integrity, funded entirely by the forfeited assets of Hale Aerospace. Marcus had redirected their fall into a purpose, training leaders in ethics, humility, and accountability. At its first conference, and surrounded by the very power circles that once ignored him, he spoke words that felt like scripture. Power without character is a loaded weapon. Wealth without empathy is noise. But dignity is the only thing that outlasts empires. The crowd rose to their feet, not out of obligation, but reverence. Outside, a reporter called out, Do you forgive her? Marcus paused, eyes steady beneath the city lights. Forgiveness isn't for her, he said. It's for the lesson the world needed to see. As his car pulled away, reflections danced across the glass. The same glittering lights that once framed a night of humiliation. But now they told a different story. Somewhere, another gala was being planned, another crowd preparing to toast its own importance. But no one would ever forget the night a woman poured wine on a man she thought beneath her, only to drown her own legacy in the spill. Because the truth is timeless. Respect costs nothing. Arrogance costs everything. And dignity is the quiet revenge that never needs applause.